Tyler Mallon. I'm Brandon Johnson. It's been a month since we've been together, Tyler. Both of us obviously are very busy people and just haven't been able to get on the mic together at the same time. But we're here, and as far as I know, good to go for the remainder of the season. But we held it down, and here we are. The Chiefs 6-0, the only undefeated team remaining.
It's great. It feels, with the way the team has been playing, it feels almost impossible. But it's also like totally natural. It feels like you're watching the game, and never in this game did I feel that the game was out of hand. And I certainly wouldn't say that. I mean, it was like halfway through, and I thought, not that the game was over, but I was like, they're not losing this game. Like, I don't care what happens the rest of the way. And this is before the Ayuk injury and all that, and Debo leaving the game. I'm jumping way ahead here, but geez.
No,
The Chiefs just always feel in control.
I agree with everything you said there. This was really from the beginning. I was pretty relaxed. I know there was a lot of buildup into this game, and the Chiefs were the underdog, which I don't really know how they figured that out in Vegas, but
the team they just beat,
they did. But I was like, there's a lot of hype for a Super Bowl rematch, and obviously they're going to push that. But it just felt like the Chiefs didn't play a pretty game. I don't think they played a pretty game all season, but
no,
it's like, for me, the 49ers like so badly want the Chiefs' attention, and the Chiefs are just like, okay. Like, they're just like it. And maybe it's the Chiefs fan in me. Like, this game meant way more to the 49ers than it did the Chiefs, because
or
I
to
was
the NFL.
Like, yeah.
The Super Bowl
like,
rematch.
I'm not this. The 49ers honestly aren't that. They're not as good as we expected them to be this season. I know they have a lot of injuries as well, but
right.
I mean, if we can't really use injuries as an excuse when the Chiefs are 6-0, because they kept saying that on the broadcast too. They're like, "Oh, the Niners are banged up." And I'm like, "Have you seen the Chiefs? Sky Moore's getting meaningful snaps. All right."
Oh yeah, you got a lot of snaps.
But
yeah, that's exactly what was happening. I didn't really notice the fact that they were leaving out the fact that the Chiefs were so, decimated as well. But they also don't have as big a names as the Niners do. And they need those names. They don't have Mahomes in the most important position. They just have all these other key players and Brock Purdy. Now again, I'm not talking trash here. Purdy's definitely a serviceable QB, but he can't, put the team on his back without all those guys there. And to be fair, he was, I mean, what they say, like 5th, 6th, and 7th receivers at that point. I mean, that's, that's going to be tough for anybody. But yeah, especially with McCaffrey and then anybody else. I mean, you still have, George Kittle out there. Maybe utilize him more. I mean, he still had a pretty good game, almost 100 yards.
Yeah, and I mean, that's like honestly par for the course for tight ends to have decent games against the Chiefs. That seems to be the one position that is consistently productive against this defense. But this was Brock Purdy's worst game by far, like easily. Is completion percent just over 50% of his passes, 212 yards, some garbage time in there, 3 picks, 3 bad picks too. Like,
yeah,
it wasn't like defense made a good play on the ball. It was like, I don't know who you're throwing to right now. Types of interceptions.
It was still, for a couple of them, where the pass rush was still getting home and forcing him
Mhm.
to make bad throws, which, Mahomes also did, but his were incompletions and not interceptions. Um, yeah, Purdy, like he threw one. I don't remember who that was. I think it was the second one where it was just his guy ran a completely different route than he thought he was going to throw.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
and our guy toe taps on the side, just easy, completely wide open.
Yep.
Then there was the goal line, you know, interception. Can't do that. Red zones will kill you. But there was two people there. Like, not only did he rush the pass, but there was two defenders around the receiver that he's throwing to, and Karlaftis was about to sack him. So
Mhm.
yeah, making bad decision. A lot like um, well,
You got it.
Tampa Bay quarterback that just threw a million
Baker
interceptions
Baker
against, yes, Baker
Mayfield.
Mayfield. Thank you. Baker looked awful last night, and yeah, he honestly lost that game for his team. But
Yeah.
yeah, the Chiefs finally win the turnover battle, and that is at least a good sign. The first Mahomes pick was a batted pass, and then
Unfortunate.
the second one was Xavier fell down. So it's like I don't really feel, too bad about those. They're certainly
Yeah.
not like the earlier interceptions in the season,
He,
where you're like, could there maybe, is maybe Mahomes a little off time or losing
he
confidence? But no, he's fine.
he looks over the last couple of weeks, 3 weeks, he looks like he has more control of his game.
Right.
Where like there hasn't been, and the stats are not there, but he's still doing like the little things that like Patrick Mahomes does for the team to win, like huge scramble yesterday. Two big runs, I think.
Mm.
He still does things like that where you're just like, what? And he just makes defenders look stupid. I don't know, like 53 on that 33-yard scramble.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing 5 yards out of bounds right now, man? Like,
Yeah. He's running laterally and just
yeah,
continues to go horizontal.
yep.
And Mahomes is
But
like, all right, keep going.
yeah, um Patrick Mahomes has more interceptions than he does touchdowns through 7 weeks, and nobody's worried about it.
No,
He's still like somehow, and I don't think this makes sense whatsoever. He's still like top 5 MVP favorites. I like he's not gonna win MVP. Like he's
no,
our
not
but
with the way Lamar's playing.
no, Lamar can have it. I don't
Yeah.
care.
Again.
But I do want to talk about just kind of how weird this game was. It was just
Yes.
bizarre. Like the the turnover on downs, the Chiefs do the fake punt,
Mm-hmm.
and Brock Purdy immediately turns around and throws that first interception. That right there, obviously it wasn't premature, but right there I was like, okay, the Chiefs are winning this game. But I do want to like I'm confused at the decision for the Chiefs to do the fake punt. Not to go for it, but like if you're going to go for it, just go for it, right? Like just get
Right.
Carson Steele out there, Kareem Hunt, and just run the football, right? Like I feel like the Chiefs just kind of like overthink little things. And I know like we're going to try to catch them off guard, but nobody was fooled by that. So you might
Not
as
at
well
all.
just like let everybody know, hey, we're going for it, and just put the run the offense out there and let the offensive line work and let Carson Steele or whoever get the ball and get the 2 yards or whatever it was they needed.
Yeah, I don't remember. I'm trying to find who ran that, who they direct snap to, but it was so like lackluster. Like
Hmm.
he just barely. He was like, oh, the play. As soon as he started running, he's like already giving up. He was like, oh, I'm not gonna get the first down, so I'm just gonna kind of fall over. Like
Yep.
I just saw no. It was not a football play. That guy gets the ball, and I'm like, man, like just didn't really try to gain any yards there. He just kind of ran to the back of his blockers and fell over.
Yeah.
But I'm like, yeah, maybe If you had a running back's mentality out there to get a whatever it was, 2 or 3 yards. But
Yeah. Can we talk about how good this defense is? Real quick. The Chiefs defense.
I mean, they're the best.
I mean, I think let's look at the Chiefs schedule and who they played. Outside of the Bengals, they have not given up more than uh outside of the Bengals and Ravens. They gave up 20 to the Ravens, 25 to the Bengals, but they haven't given up more than like 18 points since September 22nd.
That's
So,
insane.
like, once again, the offense has all of these things going on. Like last year, it was the drops, and this year, it's, you know, who can catch a football. Like, just put anybody out there at this point due to all the injuries. But you have a defense that was supposed to be pretty bad this year because they lost L'Jarius Sneed, and
Right.
people that have come in have just like maybe not played to the level of L'Jarius Sneed,
All right.
but like I don't know about you, I'm not sitting there watching the game and like, wow, we really need L'Jarius Sneed right now. This wouldn't have happened if Sneed was like I've I haven't even thought about Sneed, and he's out there
No.
balling in Tennessee.
Right. So this is per Matt McMullen on X. The Chiefs defense has now held opponents under 28 points in 27 consecutive games. It's the longest streak for any team since 2005 to 07. Ravens did so in 29 games. KC has held their last 4 opponents under 20, like you said. So
Yeah.
this is like historic, historic defense for 2 years. Yeah, and you're exactly right. They don't really miss Sneed. They lost or are essentially losing Jalen Watson.
Yeah, he's
That's his name.
done. He's done for. It sounded like I didn't
Broken ankle.
see the full report, but it sounded like there was a potential for him to come back late in the season.
Yeah, I think it's like a late playoff push, is what they were saying. So he's definitely going to miss all the season, most of the playoffs, maybe a playoff game here or there in the Super Bowl. Come back, who the heck knows? But that basically, they're saying, yeah, his season's over. It's a broken ankle. He's already gotten surgery or is going to surgery. And I guess he was essentially like the second best to McDuffie. But it seems like every corner that they've, drafted and traded for is just a next man up. Like every guy, it's like they have found, you know, each one of these players has like some sort of kind of special ability that they can kind of use, for each one of those defensive guys. And it
Mm-hmm.
just always seems to work out somehow.
Yep. Yeah. So they have Joshua Williams will obviously step up into Jalen Watson's spot, and I again I'm not even worried about that whatsoever.
Yeah, because I think the pass rush is still right when you need it. They're always there, and they really didn't. You didn't see the. Maybe it happened, but yeah, I don't really remember like a cover zero situation. They really didn't need it in this game. They didn't have to do an all-out blitz and have some sort of game-changing play. They were always kind of in control, but I mean, their run defense is got to be first in the league. They're holding all these amazing running backs to like 50 yards. I think this was the game. Jordan Mason, yeah, he had 58 yards. He's like the highest running back. That's like the most yards for running back the Chiefs have led all season.
Yeah.
And a lot of that's probably garbage time type of stuff. So they're probably still talking about holding running backs to 30 or 40 yards.
Yep. So Let's obviously, if you're ready to move on, like Chiefs clearly have a need at wide receiver that I think they need to go out onto the trade market. I think they will go onto the trade market and get somebody because right now the Chiefs have at wide receiver Xavier Worthy, McCole Hardman, Sky Moore, Justin Watson, and then tight ends Travis Kelsey, Noah Gray, um, Jared Wiley, Jody Fortson. I didn't mention Juju Smith-Schuster because he has that was a hamstring injury, and I don't really.
Yeah.
I think he's already been ruled out for this week,
I think so.
and I don't know when he's going to come back. But
Yeah, it happened to Mike Evans last night. He drops a touchdown pass, and his hamstring is out.
yeah,
It's like,
Juju's
what is?
was. Yeah, well, I mean, injury. If you want to talk about injuries as a whole, I mean, this week was rough
Oh yeah,
for injuries. So
well, the
many
whole
people went
season
down. Yeah, the whole season too. But
for
yeah,
every
like
team it seems.
I mean, Deshaun Watson, like literally Achilles, literally, and that was one that was easy. Like you saw the pop in
Oh
the
yeah,
calf. You're like, oh, okay, he's
yeah,
done. You had the Brandon
crazy.
Ayuk injury that was like as soon as you saw it, you're like,
Oh
hey,
yeah,
his knee's not supposed to do that.
yeah.
like, um, so you knew he was
Well,
hurt.
Debo,
Obviously, Jalen
Debo
Watson.
has pneumonia.
Is that what it was? He was
Yeah,
looking like he was going through it.
right. I'm so that I was wanting to really give him props. Debo
Aiden
Samuel.
Hutchinson.
Oh yeah,
That
he had
happened
a
last
knee
week,
thing too. Yeah.
but he had a
Well, for
bad.
the whole season, it's still
Yeah.
just like um, it's a lot of season enders,
Yep.
or like half the season, like major injuries for
Mm-hmm.
a lot of guys. I mean, well, Puka and Cooper Cup, who I think we're about to talk about, like they've
Yeah.
been out for the whole season until now. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah, Cooper Cup's.
Let's talk about that. Cooper Cup.
Yeah, his name was thrown out today, and basically saying the Rams have been calling teams to say, "Hey, he's available." I think I heard like they want a round 2 or a second round or something, and they're like, nobody's
So
doing that.
they said they're wanting. I gotta find it. They're wanting like a second round pick, but the Rams are willing to pay like a good chunk of Cooper Cup's salary in order to get that. So it wouldn't. So
Gotcha.
like they're trying to make it a fair trade off, but it's like okay, do what? And I think that if you even if you had the Rams pay for a bunch of the salary and you did give up a second, it'd be conditional. Like he would have to play
Right.
X amount of games or snaps or whatever it is. Because like Cooper Cup's clearly an injury risk. Great receiver when healthy,
Yes.
but
Well, the Raiders tried the same thing with Devontae. They wanted a second, and they didn't get it, did they? They just got a third or something.
yeah, they got a conditional third, and I think it will turn into a second if he made first or second
Oh
team
yeah.
All Pro, or if the Jets made the AFC Championship or the
Right.
Super Bowl, and
There you go.
and the Super Bowl, I guess. Because, but
Right. Right.
uh, um, yeah, his name has come up today, and Deontay Johnson's been after Amari Cooper got traded to the Bills last week. Like Deontay Johnson kind of went to the front of the pack of players for the Chiefs to go out and get. Deontay Johnson has not even been remotely subtle about how unhappy he is in Carolina. So he's basically like begging for a team to trade for him. So could see him
Yep.
coming to the Chiefs. But for me, it's just like serviceable bodies. Like it's not. I don't
Right.
need them to get Devontae Adams, Amari Cooper, Cooper Cup. Like, I don't necessarily like. I don't think the Chiefs have to do that, but I think
Yeah, like a DeAndre Hopkins or just a
yeah,
name.
exactly.
It might be cool to have a veteran come in and just, have some crazy end of their career with Mahomes. Like that would be awesome if that were the case, but you never know. So I think, Mike Williams was a name that, the Chiefs might pick up, but a lot of people were not really into him. They're like, yeah, he might be serviceable, but he's not like necessarily a game changer. But now, like, that Brandon Ayuk is out, and all these other teams are needing receivers as well. It's sounding like Mike Williams might be harder for the Chiefs to go out and get because there's a lot bigger of a market now. A lot of people are needing receivers. So,
Hmm.
and yeah, I think Adam Thielen's name is out there, and I'm like, I don't see him.
Nah.
You know, he's not even a body that it's like that I'm like really interested in. But
Yeah,
again,
they
he
just.
might come in and play with Mahomes and be way better. But who knows?
I mean, I think there's always that possibility, but for me, it's like it's almost less about who they bring in and more about like who isn't getting meaningful snaps. Like
Sure.
clearly, like McCole Hardman was honestly
Yeah.
fine, but Sky Moore cannot get meaningful snaps in this Chiefs offense. Like yesterday, like he can't play receiver. He can't catch. He can
He
apparently start
was.
fights, but he can't catch. He can't run routes. He can't play special teams. He had that one highlight in the Super Bowl against the Eagles where he didn't even line up right, but scored a touchdown.
Right.
So
Yep.
that's
That's
Sky
true.
Moore's
That's
highlight reel.
Yeah. You're not wrong. And yeah, he was out there for a lot of snaps, something like 20 or 30, 27 or 30 or something like that. He had one target.
And he
So
dropped
that tells you what.
it.
Yes, he did not catch it. Um, so yeah, Sky Moore is not a thing. But until they get a guy in there and he knows the playbook, the guys you mentioned, Noah Gray looked awesome. He had 66 yards. I think he'll get more production. Hopefully Kelsey can get open, and Cody Fortson perhaps will catch a pass or two. I don't know. Again,
Yeah.
I think they'll be fine because the way they're winning is very odd. It's very interesting to hear the national media talk about the Chiefs because they're just like the Chiefs are so boring and they're still 6-0, and it's just like nobody cares.
Mhm.
Like as Chiefs fans, we see that we still. This is just the early part of the season, even though this is again last year it was drops, this year it's injuries, and they can't really get on the same page. Kelsey really hasn't had a Kelsey game yet, and it does look very strange, but as a Chiefs fan, I'm not concerned at all or
They
want to
haven't
see something different.
they haven't
Everybody,
needed him.
no, they have not. They're 6-0. It's like the national media cannot shut up about how they look
It's
or how they play. They're
it's
not as entertaining as
they're
they used to be. It's like, who cares?
I feel like the national media, I mean, to me, they're spending more time like trying to say this is why they won't 3P rather than like, wow, this team's really good. They look
Right.
different than they typically would. It's not your, normal contributors that you'd see, but like Travis Kelsey, yeah, 17 yards, 70 yards, 89 yards, 30 yards, 5 yards, 34 yards. Just
5 yards.
I read that backwards. That was from most recent
Okay.
to
Right.
all the way back to week 1. But like I'm not like, man, Travis
Yeah.
Kelsey. I mean, I'd love for him to get involved, obviously, because at
Yes.
this point he's got 245 yards, and I mean, was he on pace for like 600 yards at this point and no touchdowns?
I think it says more about the defense and the coaching than anything. I mean, the fact that they are 6-0 with these types of offensive performances, I think that should be the story. That should be what be what people are talking about, and it's just not. You know, I just I just find it funny. It's not like they're not necessarily negative. They're still like, I mean, geez, this team is so good, and they are giving props where it's kind of due. But I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, there should be more talk about the fact that they're doing this, and the coaching staff is just so much better. Like they're literally out coaching because they're just running the or stopping the runs so well. And I think
Hmm.
that more than anything, more than a lot of people realize, and maybe I even realized, I've always kind of knew that, like, run the damn ball, like, is what everybody always says. But it's like, that's really true. Like, you really have to have some kind of a semblance of a run game to compete in the NFL. Even though, you know, you lose Tyreek Hill and they don't really have that kind of passing attack that they used to, that's explosive, offense in Mahomes, but they don't need it. They actually have this awesome run game out of nowhere.
Oh yeah.
You know, they bring
Oh,
back Kareem Hunt, and
the,
it's like,
the
this is awesome.
fact, the fact that like Isaiah Pacheco goes down,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh great, because you had Carson Steele, who was like, flavor of the month when he
Hmm.
in training camp and through the preseason, and Samaje P. Ryan, like you're like, that's a little bit of a concerning running back room.
Right.
You bring in Kareem Hunt, and it's like he didn't miss a beat.
Yeah, he's
He's
like
been
totally rejuvenated.
he's been fantastic.
Yeah,
And
shocking. Shocking.
what's crazy is I think like it'll probably make the Chiefs be more patient with bringing back Isaiah Pacheco, but it's also
Right.
going to be like when they do bring back Pacheco, and let's say that Kareem Hunt is healthy too, that's going to be like that's going to pick your poison, right? Hey,
Right. Oh my God. Yeah.
Kareem Hunt, Isaiah
Both of
Pacheco.
them.
Yeah. Good luck, everybody else. So,
Repeat. Here we go.
yeah. I'm but I think like Noah Gray for me has been like one of the pleasant surprises. Like
Yeah.
the more I watch him play, the more I'm like he just kind of looks like Travis Kelce out there. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of times where I'm like, is that 87 or 83? Because
Yes.
they look similar. So which is good.
Right.
So even if I mean if Noah Gray's the guy after Travis Kelce leaves and it's not Jared Wiley, or maybe it is Jared Wiley as well, I feel like the Chiefs are in a good place with him.
Yeah. What was it? Week 2, or what week did they sign Noah Gray just out of nowhere? Like right before.
Yeah, it was like week 2 or something. They just like signed him to an
Yeah.
extension.
It was such a surprise. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I was
Yeah, get you some, man. Like, get your contract. And that tells you all you need to know what the Chiefs think of the guy.
yeah.
And then I keep hearing a lot of analysts say, like, they're clearly, Mahomes and company have created plays for him, which is what you do for your players. But it's like, yeah, if he's that type of player, that's something special. Like, he's going to be the kind of future. They're seeing him as, you know, the future after Kelsey. So,
Yeah. So I, another player, I think Xavier Worthy, I think in the second half of the season will be like I think he'll kind of have that second half like Rishi Rice type of like jump that Rishi Rice
right,
had last year. Where like, oh, he's kind of reliable. So I think once Worthy gets more comfortable and is able to run like more routes and just kind of have more, I guess, options and more trust from Mahomes,
right.
I think you'll see his numbers jump up. And man, they've already multiple times like Mahomes has tried to get him that deep ball, and they've connected a couple times this season with it. They tried to yesterday, but it was an overthrow. And how you overthrow
Oh
Xavier
man,
Worthy is impressive.
100% thought he was going to catch that,
Yep.
and I was like, man, turn on the Jets, like just to give it that little burst
Mhm.
and go grab that ball. But they showed the replay in slow motion, and he did do the burst, and he still couldn't get to the ball. And I'm like, yeah, that's not on Xavier. Like he just overthrew him, and
Yep.
they'll make that connection. There was another big play. What was that other big play? I think they dropped or he overthrew it or something. I don't know. There was some other big play that either happened or didn't where I'm like, there's gonna be more of that. Like that's there's gonna be timing that they're gonna get better at. And again, I think some of that explosive, those plays they'll figure that out. Actually, I was gonna say, Steve Smith, the Carolina great, like badass wide receiver. He said he was on Heed the Call podcast, and he
Mhm.
said about Xavier Worthy, he kind of at the combine, and watching his college film, he was like, Xavier Worthy is gonna be a guy. Like he's gonna be really good, but he's very young, he's very small, but he's like been in the league a long time, and the Chiefs will ramp him up. Like it's unfair to push an entire playbook, an entire season out of a guy that young, but he will become a great receiver eventually. But it's like you got to be patient with these kind of guys, and that Chiefs coaching staff knows that, and people who watch him, like he's not just going to come out and just be who he's going to be. Like it's going to take time. Good, that's what he was saying. His point was like good coaching staffs will ramp him up and not overwhelm him, you know, and like he'll eventually get there. But yeah, good coaching staffs will slowly get him, more and more experience and not burn him out, which he's seen a lot of players do. But that's awesome coming from Steve Smith, to be like, yeah, this guy, he's gonna be your next wide receiver one day, so he'll get there.
So I want to look at the Chiefs' schedule because I'm looking at it, and outside of like 3 games, they've got a pretty soft schedule.
Yes, they do.
So
It's all in division.
yeah, they play the Raiders this week, then the Buccaneers on Monday Night Football. Buccaneers just got torched by Baltimore. I still think the Bucs are good, but
Yeah, not as good anymore.
AFC or NFC South good,
Sure.
9-8. But play the Broncos, then the Bills, which the Bills obviously like that's
Who the
always
hell knows?
kind of game of the
Yeah,
year like potential. Then they play the
right.
Panthers. The
It's at
Panthers,
Bills too.
yeah, the Panthers are. I mean,
That's a win.
I have no words. Then the Raiders again, Chargers, Browns. Browns are really bad. They just lost their quarterback. Not that their quarterback was having any success anyway, but
They just took the Chiefs practice squad guy, Bailey Zappi, right? Is that who they took?
I don't know. I didn't look at their moves.
Yeah, they took a practice squad. I think it was Bailey Zappi. I think that's who the Browns
I don't.
just took.
Did the Chiefs have Bailey Zappi?
Yeah, they had him on the
Uh,
practice squad.
all right. Former
I'll
Patriot.
confirm, but yeah, I'm pretty sure.
But Texans did 4 days before Christmas and Steelers on Christmas. Now, I think the only thing like I'm looking at this game and we'll talk about it more as like we get closer to time, but the Browns, Texans, Steelers stretch is at 3 games in 10 days. So like
Right.
I winning all 3 of those is,
Sure.
I don't know, it's a tough task. But I was listening to the radio and Mitchell Schwartz was on there and he was asked about the 3 games in 10 days and he was talking
Right.
about just short weeks in general. And kind of gave me like I always felt like the player's voice that they hated it, and it probably depends on who the players are. But he was like, "Yeah, 3 games in 10 days is not like ideal." Is big paraphrase, by the way, not like ideal,
Right.
but those if you're having 3 games in 10 days, you're likely not having physical practices, so you're getting like you're probably not having padded practices at all.
Right. Just what kind of
So
walkthroughs?
yeah, maybe doing walkthroughs, watching a lot of film, and doing preparation that way. So it might not be as like as gruesome as a stretch as like everybody's kind of makes it seem,
Right.
but still going to be something to watch. But let's look at this upcoming matchup to the Las Vegas Raiders in Las Vegas. Oh, the Raiders. Raiders are bad. Raiders are 2-5. Just traded Devontae Adams away. Devontae Adams didn't want anything to do with that mess. The Raiders just signed Desmond Ritter. I don't know if they're planning on starting him or what they're doing over Gardner Minshew, but I I'm looking at the Raiders and Gardner Minshew, Alexander Mattison. I don't know who that is. Zamir White, we know him.
He
But
played
like
for the
Jacoby
Vikings.
Myers, Trey Tucker, DJ Turner, Brock Bowers.
Okay, Brock Bowers is really good.
Right. So
he's
there's
he's a
one
rookie
player,
tight end. Yeah.
yeah, one player out of that bunch that you're like, oh, like, okay.
Yeah.
And then on
That's
defense,
about it.
it's Max Crosby. And then
Pretty much.
yeah. And I know the Chiefs, like, it's a division game, and the Chiefs obviously last season on Christmas kind of hit rock bottom against the Raiders. And the Raiders, had a lot of talking in the offseason about Antonio Pierce with the Mahomes rule, and we're
Mhm.
going to go after Mahomes. And then you had the training camp, like Kermit the Frog thing, and Patrick Mahomes saying, we'll deal with that when we deal with that. So
It'll get
I,
taken care of.
I don't know if the Chiefs are about to drop 50 on the Raiders or what's going to happen
I
this week,
certainly hope so.
but I'm looking forward to it.
So, I was gonna make a joke, before the Monday night game and say, "Come on here and be like, all right, the Chiefs are 7-0 because they're
Mhm.
beating the Raiders." And then, who knows about the, the Buccaneers. But Buccaneers lost Mike Evans. I think they also lost shoot, their other wide receiver who was really good.
Chris Godwin.
Chris Godwin, thank you. But yeah, I'm not at this point. And the way Baker played, I mean, goodness, he was just chucking up interceptions all game. I honestly thought he lost the game for them. We'll get to the Bucks next time, but um, yeah, the Raiders just lost the Rams. Aiden O'Connell broke his finger, and enter Gardner Minshew, who lost the job. He was the starter. He lost his job maybe 2 weeks ago, I think. Um, he enters the game. He threw 3 interceptions in that game.
Terrible.
Last week. Okay, the Chiefs are gonna have no problem with the Raiders. And I think he also had like a fumble as well. I don't know. Yeah, he did. He had a one fumble. So Minshew is not playing great. His coach doesn't trust him, to be the starter. And as you said with the rest of their team, it's pretty vacant. So
Yeah. I
yeah, and
it's
that they're returning to the side of the Super Bowl that they just won.
mhm.
And I think the Raiders are probably the last team to even beat the Chiefs. If that goes back to
uh
last year,
I think so, yeah. I
was that
think
the
they're the
Chris?
last
That's the
team.
last
Yeah.
game they lost was on that
Yep.
you mentioned. Yeah.
Yep. I think the Raiders are like interesting because they don't I don't know what to make of them. Like I know like they're bad, but like I don't know where they're headed. It feels like they're headed nowhere. Like where and what I mean is like I look at the other teams in the division. I look at the Chargers and I look at the
Sure.
Broncos and I see what the Chargers are trying to do. And
Right.
I see what the Broncos are trying to do. Like I don't see a plan with the Raiders. I just see a bad team staying bad. It's just a mess.
That's a really good point. And I think it proves, our kind of suspicions that like um the head coach was not the right pick. You know, we didn't really trust him. It was more like, well, the players wanted this guy, so Antonio Pierce. Um, and I never really bought it. I was like, that's not. You don't want your players making that decision. That
Mhm.
seems like, a reach, and probably not a good idea. And I think that's what's happening here. But the other side of this, and I think we'll probably dig in to this maybe later in the season or next year just to see what's going on. But like Tom Brady is now part owner or majority owner or whatever. How
He's
much input is
minority stake. I don't know if it's
yeah.
like I don't know if
Well,
it's
how
like a
much is
like Patrick Mahomes has like I think 1% in the Royals.
sure?
So I don't know if it's like Brady has 1% in the Raiders and it's just as simple as like I don't know how much input Mahomes has in Royals
Oh
conversations,
well, no, not
right?
in baseball.
It's not like he's like at the table like, yeah, we should extend Bobby Witt Jr. for 300 million over 14 years. Like, I don't think he had any part of that. He probably
Right.
got a text that was like, "Hey, we're doing this. What do you think?" And he's like, "Good." Like, I don't know how much input Tom Brady's gonna have in.
Well, how
Um,
much would Mark Davis actually listen to him as well? You
I
know what I
mean,
mean?
it's for me. It's like it's not even like we know that Tom Brady can play football, but can
Yeah.
Tom Brady put together a football team? Like,
Right.
it reminds me of, like, John Elway. John Elway, no doubt,
Sure.
great quarterback, but couldn't run a front office to save his life. The only, like, the only success he had at finding a quarterback was being able to lure Peyton Manning to
Mm,
Denver and go to 2 Super Bowls, obviously winning one, but, like, Brock Osweiler, Paxton Lynch, Drew
yeah.
Lock. There's one more in there that I can't think of, but just miss after miss after miss.
Right.
What's his name? I can't think of his name. Trevor something. I'll think of it.
Um, does he even play?
Trevor
I thought
Simeon.
you
Trevor
got him on.
Simeon was
Oh
the guy.
wow,
Yeah, yeah.
forgot about him
Yeah, yeah. So just
on the. Okay.
yeah. So like I don't know what Tom Brady's like front office team building like
Right.
how he can operate.
Can Tom Brady save the Raiders? It's like, what world are we living in? So weird. I did like Tom's commentary.
I thought he was
I thought it was
great.
really good.
Yeah. I thought he was great. Like I thought he just gave insight that was neutral.
Yeah.
Like here's why this was good or here's why this didn't work or here's like what this
Well,
was and it was just like you kind of forgot he was there, which is almost what you want when you have
sure.
commentators.
Yeah, I was, actually listening to what he was saying. Like I took time to be like, okay, what's Tom going to say here? Because he was actually critical of both quarterbacks and kind of everybody. You'd be like, oh, that was underthrown, and what's he thinking here? Which I want a lot more of. And basically, all sports, all sports need a lot more of that. Just like it's okay to criticize these guys because I want to know what they're doing right and wrong.
Hmm.
It's like I didn't play football like you did. Like, let us know that stuff. Like, it's interesting.
Yeah.
It keeps me engaged and like I want to know that kind of stuff. But
Yeah. I'm with
yeah,
you. I was that was really outside of like a little bit of the week one. Like that was the first time that I really sat down and listened
Oh,
to
really?
Tom Brady call a game, and
Right.
I was like, "Hey, I enjoyed it."
Right.
But I will be interested with Tom Brady because I know that the Raiders deal going through kind of handcuffs him in the booth in a
Yeah.
lot of ways. So
So
I'll be
weird.
curious if like they get to the end of the season and Tom Brady opts out of his deal or what'll happen there. Or if like he just does it for 10 years and we don't really think anything of it.
Right.
I also like I doubt he can call Raiders games. I doubt he's allowed to call Raiders games. But
Hmm.
uh
I don't know.
I yeah, it's something to watch, I think. I don't have anything else.
I think we're good, man. Chiefs are awesome.
Yeah. Chiefs
That's it.
6-0 on the road headed to face the Raiders with hopes of leaving Las Vegas 7-0. But that's all I have this week. If you're enjoying the show, give us a rating, a review, 5 stars. That helps with our growth, exposure. So appreciate it if you do that. We will see you next time.